great things that we can say about each other that we're doing, but it's a pity that it's not covered. So the Custom AM TV and the Black Couch itself is there to highlight those kind of things. And the second question. Okay. So the second question. Ndiyayiba lento ndizayenza ne? Ndiyayiba. I'm gonna try and call the person that I wish she could come to my Black Couch podcast. I don't know if she will answer. Yeah, she. Let's pray, because this one is gonna be a good one if she answers. Let's pray that she answers. Ayivakali, ne? It's on loudspeaker. Who's that? She's not answering. Hi. Hello, ma. Hey, it's your boy Coffee Man. I'm out here at Stellenbosch, Kamlana, AmaZink for our first ever live audience podcast! Yes! Finally! And I would like to say thank you to AmaZink Unplugged for giving us this opportunity. And we've been planning this thing for a very, very long time to have a live audience. And I really appreciate the platform. And shout out to my panel. I'm going to introduce my panel today. First of all, Ndungkofimna from Kukuletu, for those who don't know me. And on my left, I have my brother, Okuhle Musiwa. I think it's best if you introduce yourself. Bayakotola.
I'm a social entrepreneur. I love art. I love entertainment. I want to see us as young Black collaborate and do better in life. This is my intro.
Oh, yeah. And then further.
Sisonge? Simunye? Sisonge? Kamlana Mawande, Nandazwan Bango Tata Kalulo. Dimenyiwe apha to come chill on this couch. I don't know what's going to happen. So we're going to find out together. Thank you.
Okay, that was nice. And our last panelist.
Hi everyone, Molweni Dumelang. My name is Rhea Meti, and I've been invited here. I'm also not sure what the vibe is, what's gonna go on, but really happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Cool. I think you forgot to tell them that you are the current champion.
Champ.
Not anymore.
Oh, there's a new
Not
champion.
anymore.
Oh, I forgot. There's a new champion. But you're the champion in June, right?
Yes. June Slam City champion. Current champion is Vusi, who's right here.
Give it up for Vusi.
Yeah.
Vusi Muzimpofu is one of the greatest, man. Shout out to Spumekasi podcast. Please, guys, check it out. Please subscribe on Spumekasi. They did an amazing interview with Salty Ikeja. I watched that. That was really amazing. So I think I'm going to start with you, Khronmaniam. I want to understand like what motivated AmaZink Unplugged and how it started, and for you, like how do you perceive the progress?
Right. Before I speak about myself, since we're talking about champs, I would like to mention that all the Slam City champions are in their house.
Wow.
All the Slam City champs are here. The first there ever was, and the last that there is, they are in the house today. Anyway, AmaZink Unplugged came a long way, and it's refreshing to see some of the faces that have been with us since back in the day. I came into the space as a performer. 2012, I won my first slam and was invited to come perform here. And at the time, it was called Jam Sessions. It was ran by Usive. I was part of the team at the time. I was new in Kayamanda. I didn't know what was going on. And I think they took a liking to me. I mean, everyone that meets me likes me. So they invited me to the team. And shortly after, I brought in some people. Usi is in the audience. She was one of the first people that joined AmaZink Unplugged while it was still AmaZink Jam Sessions. And we grew from there, changing names, changing structures, until we figured that we wanted to be a space of sincerity, a space of vulnerability, which is why we became Unplugged. We do not use beats here. We want a person to speak what they can speak, and we hear what they say. We don't want people to hide behind beats. We want to know what you're saying. And ever since then, it's been a platform that has helped elevate a lot of artists. It's refreshing to see a number of artists that came here fresh, like Mfundi the poet. When he came here, he was still a youngin, and he has grew to be a Slam City champion. He's featured as the top 10 in the Poetry Africa, which I think deserves a round of applause from all of you. So from all the changes, currently AmaZink is a platform for anyone that wants to use it. Whatever you have, whatever you want to do, we'll try to meet you halfway. We'll try to figure it out with you. As long as you're an artist and you have the passion for it, we're here to meet you halfway. So hope I answered you.
Cool, man. I heard you saying that you started here as a poet. Why do you always cringe over your old content? That's my question, because you always highlight that online.
I think part of growth is realizing, and a part of learning is realizing how much you don't know. And when you know little, you are very confident in what you have. And back in the day, I used to go around claiming I was one of them poets. And the stuff I was performing, man, come on. But anyway, I mean, it's part of developing, part of growth. And now that I know this much, now that I know what poetry is, well, I think I do. Now that I've seen what I can see, I don't want anyone to ever see what I was doing back in the day, so yeah.
I want to push it to Ria, because being into poetry slams is an experience on its own, and it's also a learning curve. And I want to ask you, what was your experience on the Slam City Poetry competition? And also, how is the reception beyond that, being one of the champions?
Okay, really good question. I think, first of all, I've experienced a lot of growth in the space. I always say writing for slamming is completely different from just writing, to let out your feelings and that sort of thing. I lost the first slam. I thought it was a terrible loss. Like, I agonized over that performance for weeks afterwards. Like, that was horrific. Why did I do that? And I forgot all the lines, and it was really terrible. And then I made a comeback, which is good. Like, I'm back. So I think, first of all, it's an awesome space. One of the things about writing is the only way to validate that your work is good is, having it critiqued and having other people listen to it. But also, when you're writing to tell a story, you want to make sure that the story can be heard. So if I just write in my room, there's no way for me to assess if my writing is effective enough. So being on stage has, it's a lot more eyes on my work, so it's given me that exposure to have more people listen to what I write and more people give critiques. But it's also forced me to look inward into the reason why I write and the kind of work that I want to produce. Because now I know that there's a slam coming, but I also need to be wary of writing specifically for the slam. Like I don't want to consistently write competitively because I think competitiveness always takes away from art. So it's been an excellent experience in that now I have more people to engage with, I have more people to critique my art, but I also have a lot of inward growth about ensuring that I'm always true to my writing in the process. Yeah.
I was
Fun
actually
times.
about to ask you, like,
Yeah.
what inspires your writing?
It's such a difficult question. And this is the third time I'm getting asked that specific question today. Look, I think the question is, for me, it's the equivalent of me asking you what inspires you to breathe. Come on. Like, you just wake up and you do it because it's something that you have the capacity to do. And in a lot of ways, it's something that you feel you can't live without. I can't imagine my life without writing. So I don't think I draw specific like inspiration from specific events or whatever. It's just something that's a part of me. It's something I have to do because it's who I am. So I don't have an answer to your question.
Wow.
Excuse.
Wow. That's amazing, man. And I want to bring in my brother over here because one thing that he does that I like, he works with children. And at that stage, they are very curious. They want to learn. How's your experience working with children? And also, how do you feel when you see them shining? Because I know you also run partly Sundown's Netball Club. And seeing those kids being called into like provincial teams, national teams, how does it feel for you?
Okay, King. Mna diyabathanda abantwana. I love kids a lot. So, for example, I'll start with the private tutoring that I do. So there's a one boy, he came in, his mother, he was code 1 in maths. And when I tested him, he was actually very smart. Then I found out it was confidence that was lacking from him. So all I did was just say, boy, wena unswempu man. Noba ngubani bethe udom, uyaphosisa. Wena, you've got this. I worked with him for one term. Next term, he was till today, from grade 5 is grade 7 now, he's still getting code 7s in maths. It was just that mind shift that was needed. So when it comes to working with the kids and seeing them thrive in life, that fills my soul, bruh. Like, for example, now the kids of Sundown's Netball Club, they are in Eastern Cape playing a tournament. They were able to fund themselves to go there through playing sport. So sport and art, those things are like this. And it builds our kids in our community. So we must try to support these kids and give them these platforms like these to expose their talent and be in the corner all the time. And we will have stars, org from each and every township.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. That's really powerful. Talking about sports and arts, I want to ask you something. How do you feel about our new Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture?
Hectic.
Lord.
I want to
Lord,
say
please.
South Africa is a land of opportunities. Doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past, but it allows you the chances to be what you could be. I do not necessarily agree with people in power, because I do not subscribe to that. But for him, happy for him. He should, do what he can, but let me listen. I run a space that requires funding, so so Kaitin, come on now. We need some 50,000, yabon. So he's good people. He's good people.
Yeah.
He's gonna send us some little some.
Do you think there's gonna be a change in terms of like?
There has been, but the thing is, when someone comes into power with a certain energy, they are likely to burn out. I don't like the way he's done a lot of things in a short period of time, and I don't know if he'll be able to maintain such a momentum. But he's done better than his predecessors so far. And I don't know, sometimes you have your preconceived notions about someone, and it's difficult to separate the person from the past and he's good people. He's good people. He's doing great work. Yeah, I mean, jokes aside, he's so far so good.
Yeah. Now I love Lord Mackenzie. I think he's very confident on what he wants, and he's very straight. He doesn't hide it. He even said it live on camera that he wants power. And to get power, you need to convince people that you can handle power. So he's doing that, and he's doing that in a great way, that on his first day, he decided to bring out the list. And I think I saw your name on the list. That's why I'm asking you this question.
What I also want to say about him is that as a leader, you have to be able to take the unpopular decisions and the decisions that people will not necessarily like. There were things that people were disagreeing with him. I don't know if he just said that on Twitter, because I follow most of the things on Twitter, not the newspaper. And he said he's discontinuing funding the fans that
Super fans.
And I was for that, because there's exorbitant amounts of money that go into their flights, going to watch a single game. That could help AmaZink Unplugged just for 1 month. I mean, come on. So, but you did not see my name, bruv.
Man,
we
you
do not have
away
money
from that. You got funding from...
No, from Ikeja, not from...
Oh, from Ikeja?
Yes, sir.
So Ikeja is family for you?
Yeah, he gave me money when he came here, but you saw us.
So we warm, walk.
It's very cold outside.
I also feel bad because I was supposed to shout out to Ikeja. Shout out to Ikeja. Make sure you check out Ikeja on www.ikeja.co.za. Uyeke uhlala emasomaliyeni kuyabanda, guys. I know that. I want to ask you something, ne?
Sure.
Deriving from what he said about being a leader. I want to know who in your life has played a role of mentoring you and making sure that you center yourself around your poetry.
Another hard question. Okay. I think I've been very blessed in my life. I think I've constantly been surrounded by very supportive people. I've always found myself in spaces where people are very encouraging and people are very quick to believe in me, I think. And it's very comforting. I don't know if I can cite individuals, because then I'm going to forget other people and then it becomes a thing. But I will start with my mom. That lady is really awesome. Funniest person I know. My mom is really great. And I think she would be one of the biggest reasons why I continue to do what I do. Because it's hard. Art is a very difficult space because it's so subjective also. You get into places and you put your heart on the stage and they're like, yeah, no, maybe you should get a real job. I don't know. So I think my mom, knowing that my mom is pushing for me is something that motivates me 100%. My granddad, who's in heaven now, but that guy believed in me with everything he had. And I think I live every day to make him proud. So yeah, lots of people, lots of support. I can't say, this is one of the reasons that made me really scared to get into poetry actually, because when I was younger, a lot of my favorite poets, like Kolega Putuma and Posha Olaiwola and Metamorphosis, all of them had such tragic stories, such horrible childhoods. And I was like, ish, people aren't going to believe me unless I tell them, I didn't have food for 3 weeks. I had to walk to school barefoot. Yeah, because I think, vulnerability has unfortunately become some form of social capital. And yeah, I was like, ish, because I've had a good life, people are going to be like, no, good life. I've had a I have parents. Let's leave it at that. Yeah, I have lots of supportive people in my life.
Oh, yeah. That's nice. I want to engage the audience right now. If you have any question on any of us, is there anyone who has any question? Because I want to engage you guys. Oh, there's a question. Can you have one mic going around? Shout out to Spumekas, man. They're doing great stuff.
Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hope ni grand bafethu abangandaziyo go by the name of Bujabi, all the way from UK, United States of KC, the Graifandeni. I've got 2-in-1 question, Burayam. First question, what inspired you to start the podcast? And who's that one guest? Ongakhali luba naye ku podcast. Uqomba yabo bani ngamfumana umjita or this girl ayijonga.
Yo. I didn't expect you to ask me. I thought you were going to ask that. What inspired me? So, back in high school, I think it was in grade 11, we're doing oral presentation. And there was that one girl, I don't want to name her, because I'm sure she's going to watch this. She never liked me in class. Oh. But she came and gave me a compliment after I had done presenting, and he was like, you should be in radio. Your voice sounds like it deserves to be in radio. So from there, I took it subliminally, but I remember the Kasi Mayhem was supposed to be a festival instead of a media house, and we were supposed to do pop-up events right around different townships in Cape Town, and then make a huge festival at the end, combining all the artists that were introduced in those small events. But then in 2020, I was chilling with that lady, Ubaba Tiwane, and a lady called Ulisa Rondo, and there came an idea to make a media house because we felt like the mainstream media or the news agencies, the only time they come to the township is when they're gonna cover a tragedy or like mass shooting, all the bad things, but they don't celebrate great things that are happening in the township. And then you end up thinking that that's the only thing that's happening in the township. For example, iTurandi yakho lezi empokotweni, idesignwe ngumkhangeli from Enyanga. But you don't know that because they don't cover that. You won't see it on the news. You won't see it like on mainstream media. There's so many great things that we can say about each other that we're doing, but it's a pity that it's not covered. So the Custom AM TV and the Black Couch itself is there to highlight those kind of things. And the second question. Okay. So the second question. Diaiba lento zayenza ne? Diaiba. I'm gonna try and call the person that I wish she could come to my Black Couch podcast. I don't know if she will answer. Yeah, she. Let's pray, because this one is gonna be a good one if she answers. Let's pray that she answers. Ayivakali, ne? It's on loudspeaker. Who's that? She's not answering.
Hi.
Hello, ma.
Unfortunately, I cannot pick up your phone. I'm currently busy auditioning people for Uzani Kupau. I am excited. I'm going to see new faces. So please leave a detailed message and your number if you really need me to get back to you. Thank you. Bye. At the tone, record your message.
Do you guys recognize Love Voice?
Togonchinga.
There you go. Mamu Togonchinga, she used to be Joyce Onuvelapi. That's one person I really want to interview. She's been on the Black Couch, but we didn't do an interview. So hopefully we're going to do that interview very soon. Yeah.
Ayo, what up, I go by the name of Vusumuzo Wampo, also known as a Pulkambali for the 2Ks. And look at, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. Mocho. Yeah, shout out. I have two questions. So, Put Ogutle and Tamawanda and Ria, right? So, I want to ask in terms of Ikeja, right? Ikeja is doing a lot of satellite sponsorships or funding, if I can put it. I see
they've done big things with Inkosi Mandebele, right? I don't know why he calls himself Inkosi Mandebele, because Ngumdebele, and imagine I rock up and saying Inkosi Maxhosa, it's going to be a thing. But I've seen you do a lot of things with Abos Peter as well, even like with different. So how do I, or maybe just a kid from Ekas, how do I engage on that level to be like, how can you sponsor my next music video? How can you sponsor my next event? How do we build a relationship with Ikeja on that level, you understand? And then for Putmawan and Oria, my question is just like, how do we get poetry to be mainstream, right? Because maybe when you say you're a rapper or a musician, people are like, okay, cool, what's up, dog? But when you say like you're a poet, you're saying, when do I get a real job? Or you're doing that things of sharing your feelings and all that. So how do we get poetry mainstream on that level, you understand? Yeah, so that's me. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to answer this question, Kanje, ne? So, I'm an entrepreneur, ne? So you must have a way to present yourself. So, if I am going to host a spelling bee or September, ne? I'm not, because I know Kofi has a camera, I'm expecting Kofi to come shoot for free. There must be an exchange. Whoever you're approaching to find you as an artist, what are you giving them when? What are you offering on the table? Once you know that you can answer that question, about, okay, I bring this on the table, then you can engage with the person and tell them, okay, I want this. This is what I'm bringing to the table. And we must not limit ourselves. There's a lot of funding and there's a lot of people who love art, but we're just limiting ourselves. We're just looking in the one, or song is in the one, and then that email email because it needs a song is the way one. So if you go and with a profile of when as artist and what are you bringing to the table for whatever brand you are approaching, and you will get that funding. Like for example, NYT, don't listen. Apply, fill in everything. You never know. For example, I'm gonna this year I joined Canva Capital. People were like, I've got funding here 40,000.
Aye.
But it was not monetary, like it was for my business. I bought three computers. I brought a board for abantwana. Is a computer and zafunza abantwana base primary school. Ilendo indoni ngoku zabafunza computer. Umntana sese primary school. Mna ndaqala ulela ucofa laptop ndiqala first year university. You see how bad is that? The fourth industrial revolution is school. So I'm trying to cover that gap. So to answer, that's the only way I can answer your question. But I hope I answered you.
One, two. Right. On making poetry fashionable. That's what you asked, right? Mainstream. Okay. I think we've had this conversation on Facebook, and I answered it as an entrepreneur. You were asking it as an artist. I think, firstly, to make something mainstream is to make it accessible to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Firstly, most poets write for poets. I was locked in there for a long time, writing poetry, appealing to other poets. Like there are MCs that are only loved by MCs because of their intrinsic writing. And to make something reachable, palatable, I'll make an example. There's an artist that blew up, Rupikau. She wrote poetry for, she wrote poetry not for poets. She wrote poetry that could be received by everyone, could be used as an Instagram caption, could be used by a quote to anything. She expanded the universe of poetry, took it from just poetry spaces and put it in places that you'd never thought poetry could step in. So from a poet's side, try to connect not only with poets, which is something I've been trying to do. There are poems that you write, you know, you're testing your pen here. But there is poetry that you should appeal to everyone. Palatable poems, prose poems. That's how you can expand and recruit people that are outside of your circle of these poetry spaces. And to add on what he said, businesses, well, money keeps the world going. There was a workshop I attended in Johannesburg, which was hosted by Kabelo Kilobyte, where him and his group, Poet in a Suit, they were taking poetry to corporates. So trying to do poems for marketing purposes. That's expanding the universe of poetry, taking poetry to schools, to young kids. So to make poetry mainstream we should start by making poetry for everyone, not only for ourselves, not sacrificing the true core of poetry, of course. I mean, have your poems and then have, I hope you get me.
So I'm not disagreeing, right? So this isn't like an active, I think he's wrong. But I think what Mawande is saying is, it's true, right? Like, one of the reasons why people don't engage with poetry is because they might find it to be inaccessible. And it just sounds like a lot of word salads. No one knows what you're saying, that kind of thing. I take issue with Rupi Kaur because it felt like too much pandering to capitalism. And I think that's what happens a lot with a lot of art. It's not exclusive to poetry. A lot of the greatest rappers just become horrible over time because now they're trying to make it to top 100 every single time. So every song must be a club banger. And then you end up sacrificing your art. And then you just end up producing a lot of very mediocre, non-special sounding. It's a bop, sure, but what else is it? Do you know what I mean? So I don't accept Kendrick slander, please. Not the urban poet, absolutely not. We draw lines, and this is where the line is drawn. So for me, I think there's a level of arrogance that is lacking in poetry spaces. SoundCloud rappers go everywhere. Those homies book any stage, any show. They do not care. A lot of them are not the greatest, but you can't tell them that. And the way that we treat our own spaces is, I think we're very apologetic. Please come. And we try to keep it very, it's almost as though we have internalized the idea that poetry is an inferior form of art. And that's how we approach the world. So I think if we have the same kind of, we're going to book the big stages, we're going to sell tickets to big shows, you're going to come, people are just going to be more willing to engage. I don't think we need to change the way we're writing, because then I think we're selling ourselves out, we're inauthentic. But I do think we need to be a lot more arrogant in our approach to getting people to come and witness greatness. This is greatness. This writer is a genius. Have that kind of, I think that's what Rupi Kaur had. She was just I'm the greatest. If you think I'm trash, that's on you. Go argue with your toes. I'm the best that has ever been. So that's my answer.
Cool. You have a question?
I think it's...
Okay, so we're gonna take you and him, and then we're gonna close it.
Forgive me if it's the same thing, but I kind of feel like it was covered to an extent here. Maybe it's not a question, but it's also not a common... It's a common conversation that I want your take, but I kind of feel like it's the same thing. So what's currently happening right now, we have competitions. We're constantly chasing deadlines because obviously we need the money that comes out of that. But what's happening now because of deadlines, we find ourselves where we lessen creativity. Because one thing about creativity, sometimes it's stubborn. It doesn't want to come out now. But the thing is, tomorrow I have to submit this poem. And now we get tuned to that cycle of chasing deadlines because it's profiting, which comes to sacrifice art. And sometimes we're having a conversation with Vusi. As artists who are on the ground. We're constantly frustrated with people that are making it, but there's no creativity. Elements of poetry are missing. There's just nothing, but they happen to make it. So what's your take on artists that are chasing deadlines, almost or unconsciously sacrificing the depth and creativity and just all the elements? If it's not the same thing that you covered, but maybe you can just give a take.
I mean, it's your house.
But anyway, I completely agree with you. I remember at some point I was frustrated with a friend of mine. I expressed it to a friend of mine who's a dope MC. And he was talking about another rapper from Cape Town that blew up. And I wasn't feeling the nigga, still not. But
Name.
But listen, come on now. And it came, like I also mentioned that art is, I mean, you can do everything right. It's based on how the people receive you. You can write the best poems, do everything right, but if they don't feel you, for whatever reason, they might like discard your poetry. They'll be like, yeah, I don't like his cap, and then they discard the entire thing. So poetry, you can control the art itself, but you can't control how it's received by everyone, which is something that will always be outside of your control. And which is what leads people to doing gimmicks to blow up, like this guy, who's it called? Be Closer. We didn't know that he could actually rap. He started with the gimmicks to bring the attention to himself, then started rapping. Nkosi Amandebele did his gimmicks, and then now he's rapping. That boy that does the Ikeja thing on TikTok, yeah, Miss Maria. So there's that constant, the audience. I mean, Kendrick did defend people that are not dumb, but I want to say the audience at times controls whether you're successful or not, regardless of what you do. So, I mean, there's no formula. Just be as sincere as you can. I mean, to the greatest artists, you can see when the sincerity comes through. I mean, you can see the artists that I film, what draws me to them is that they're being true to themselves. And when you can tell. So I don't have an answer for you. Just wasted your time, unfortunately.
I will say, in my opinion, a lot of the greatest artists in history were not successful in their lifetime. So a lot of it's very like retrospective. You know, when they've died, we look at their pieces and we're like, oh, he was actually cooking here. This man should have given him a lot of grace. I think it's really frustrating. It's very infuriating. And I can draw a reference. I'm really sorry if there are any fans in the room. Like, don't come for me. I'm very small, I can't fight. But it's the Ice Spice chat. Do you know what I mean? It's the Ice Spice chat. Like, what exactly what are we dancing to precisely? If someone could just break it down for me. And I think my favorite era of female hip hop is the time with Queen Latifah, Rhapsody, Lauryn Hill, Missy Elliott, that era. And I think what was really unique and important about that is they weren't even trying to sell. Their objective was, we're going to change the narrative. You will recognize that women can be great and women will be great, and that's what we're doing. But then a lot of artists like that, a lot of female artists that take that route don't end up making it to the big stages because you're not shaking ass. Do you know what I mean? And it's very frustrating to witness that, to be like, there's so many awesome artists, absolutely incredible, that are just never going to get the recognition because they don't shake ass. So trying to be mainstream is hard, is the moral of the story. You have to be willing to make a lot of sacrifices. In a lot of instances, that sacrifice does include yourself as an artist. It does include your unique style. It does include, whatever it is that makes you special. It makes you great. And if you ask me, I think we should just boycott the whole thing. Just like, let's all denounce modern society and move to a farm and make our own cream cheese. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is my opinion on it. Like, screw all of it. Let's quit. Yes, that is. I hope I've answered your question. I've been yapping a lot.
Okay, we have one more question, and we're gonna close the question round.
Molweni, Kamalam Dingumihlali, and the question yami izoqala ibhekise kuRia and then the rest of our artists on stage. So, putting yourself out there is quite difficult, right? So, you mentioned that the first time, I mean, your first slam didn't go as planned, it was terrible, so that must have been tough, obviously. So, what made you go back to that space and going to the other artists as well? What keeps you going? Because opening yourself up to critique, not all critique is going to be good. Not all of it is going to be positive, and not all of it will help you necessarily. Because you know what? I like the way you sound. I like the way you say things. But if you could look into doing it like this or maybe like this, that would make it better. And then so how do we work around all of that? Because there are a lot of people who are scared to come into these spaces because we fear critique. Critique is good. You build from that, but then again, not everyone is emotionally aware and like will tell you the right things in the right way. So how do we go about all of that? Thank you.
Another, like, yeah. You guys couldn't even ask me what my favorite color is. Like, we're just going in deep with these questions. I got asked this question by the Slam City team when they were interviewing me for the newsletter. And my answer remains the same. Kolega Putuma said, we owe our dreams our passion. And when something is really important to you, you just can't give up. You will try. But the feeling of trying to give it up is so much worse than just working through the humiliation and getting back on stage. So for me, that was the trade-off. I don't like to lose. I don't lose well. I think anyone who knows me in my personal life can attest, I don't lose well at all. I spiral. And that's exactly what happened with that slam. Because it was also the first one. I was like, okay, I'm going to take a chance. You know, the world isn't so bad. And it was. I crashed and I burned hard. But the thought process was that, you know, I made the comparison to breathing earlier. I just can't exist outside of poetry. I can't not write. And I think I can't cop out, just decide not to. I have to. It was not an easy, you know, like, oh, chip off the shoulder. I'll get up. I'll do it again. It sucked, like, a lot for a really long time. But I think I owe my dreams my passion. So I keep pushing. You're going to disagree with me?
No. I'm going to agree with you. Let me find a way to disagree. Okay. No, I agree. There's a poem by Charles Bukowski about writing, basically. And he basically says that if it's difficult to do, if it's difficult to be creative, to write, then stop. If you have to meet certain requirements, you have to be in a certain space, then it's not for you. You're forcing it. And I've realized with my art, the alternative to doing it has always been difficult. Like giving up has always been more difficult than facing the chance of standing in front of people and being, sometimes you bum out on stage, you forget lines. And in my mind, that has always been the easier way than not going. I mean, I'm an egotistic maniac. I want to stand in front of people and be validated for the things I write and the things I think. And I think that comes with being an artist. So like when you're an artist, you want people to see you, to know what you think, no matter how work sometimes. And not sharing those things sometimes become more torture, which is what COVID was for most people. We decided to even perform in front of screens because we wanted people to see us. We wanted people to feel. So I would say, if for you it's easier to give up than to go back on stage, choose that route. Don't go back to stage if it's easier. If going back to stage against all odds is the one option you have, then that's the option you should take. So there's a lot of artists that are doing it for the wrong reasons. It's not from inside out, it's outside in. We see them on these spaces. And I don't want to discourage them because sometimes those artists, you see that work artist and be like, if he can do it, then I'm going to do it. But my answer to you, not as an artist, but as a person on the other side, we ought to create spaces that are receptive of these people that are trying to say something, to be heard, to feel like they are within a space that is formed or is of people that are of their same caliber. So, which is why AmaZink Unplugged exists. There's a lot of spaces outside that will not accept a first-time performer to stand in front of seasoned artists. But here we accept each and everyone so that we can build that confidence. So we ought to create more spaces that groom and... You want to take this?
Okay, so now I'm going to answer the question from an entrepreneurial perspective because I'm a social entrepreneur. So there's a quote that I like by Henry Ford. If you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, so you can. If you believe you can't. So that's what he just said. So whatever you do, even if you're I started tutoring in 2020. This is the first time I get funding. People have been saying, just go work, just go get a job. And I was like, no, I'm not going to work for anybody. I'm going to build my own thing. I'm still building it. It's not something big, but it will be big. I believe in myself. I see myself as a future millionaire. Come on. You see? So, so yeah, just believe. If you see I cannot do it, just don't do it. Don't do it because you see there's many people doing this thing. It won't work. Do it because it comes from here.
It's on me now. I'm bad at answering questions. I'm good at asking questions, but criticism. I get criticism every day. That's part of my jazz, like all the time. And for me, I always say I'm not better, but I'm built different. So how I receive criticism, because like, for me, it feels nice to criticize someone. I do reactions on YouTube, and it feels nice when I do them. But when it's the other way around, for a lot of people, it feels like someone is trying to bring you down. But take it the same way you do it on someone, and then you expect them to receive it well. Do the same thing to you when you get it. Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. But I want to read the lineup because we're wrapping up on the podcast right now. Shout out to everyone that I'm going to call their names right now. Shout out to O-Teens. Shout out to Vukile. Shout out to Pretty K Mo. Shout out to Afro Soul Artie. Shout out to Seshima Tole. Shout out to Vusumbofu. Shout out to Africa Kwayana. Shout out to Imbongi Ezotileyo. Okubhalwe Ezotile. Mr. Poster. Okay. Shout out to Siba, the Poetic Souls. Shout out to Iman Zanele. Shout out to Tsiri, Liwi, Quantum. Shout out to Sean G. Shout out to Overcast Music. Shout out to Black Barbie. And shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for hosting us. This is going to be down the history. Our next one is going to be on 100th episode. which is gonna be on the 14th of February next year. So if you have a lover, we're gonna do a special one next year with all the lovers. Last words before we close?
Now, I have a question before you cut. Where do we watch this thing?
Oh, for sure. The Kasi Mayhem TV on YouTube. The Kasi Mayhem TV. Yeah. And also subscribe. Please subscribe and share our videos. There's so many great content. We do reviews. I do reactions. I do the podcast. And there's a guy called Mfundo Mbali who couldn't make it. He does Smash or Pass and all of those things. And he has a new show coming up called Elevator Pitch, which is, I feel like he's going to like that show because we're going to be giving opportunity to entrepreneurs right around the whole city, doing like 1 minute elevator pitch so that people can listen to some of the greatest businesses that are upcoming in the townships and somehow find a way to assist each other. And yeah, shout out to Ikeja again, man. Love Ikeja so much. I hope Lema Luifumene Namde Bali Waputi. Yeah, man. Please follow us on Instagram, @Dekasi_Mayhem TV. And also follow us on TikTok, Dekasi Mayhem TV 101. And also Facebook, Dekasi Mayhem TV. Shout out to Nigel, our second camera operator. He also is a technician at Ikeja. We got the Ikeja team here. And shout out to Babalo Tiwani. She's actually the director of the company, the Kasi Mayhem media company. And she's also the camera operator of the company. Shout out to OG Tyler right there at the back. She's our... He is our sound engineer. Shout out to him, man. He's done a lot of work in one of our shows called The Roasting Session. Please check it out, man. We're bringing back the show next year. And also shout out to my niece over there, Kamlana. She assists us with everything that we need, a helping hand. And she's the reason, her mom actually is the reason why I have so much connection with Stellenbosch. So she used to live down the road here, and my sister used to live here. So I grew up here, not knowing what's happening in this venue. And today I'm inside this venue doing a podcast, which is really nice. And shout out to everyone who's going to be performing. Shout out to Spumekasi Podcast. Shout out to Samora Makwa. Guys, nimbale ku Samora Makwa ngantibana na endleleni. Otherwise, if IQ yako, nimbaleke. Shout out to Uriya. She's also going to be performing later on. Shout out to Mawande. Shout out to Okushe. And shout out to that lovely lady over there. Une Tafile, guys, please check out
May6 Boutique.
May6 Boutique. Check out their stuff, please. And smell good. And get some bags. Untengele e-chain apana something so that I can complete my look. And thank you so much, guys. And we're out. It's your boy Coffee, man. I'm out here in Cape Town. South Africa, man. Thank you so much.